Thank you again to Hunter Tools and Thompson Tools for being a sponsor for my YouTube channel.
Hi, welcome to my shop again. Well, in the last couple weeks, I've had 3 questions, inquiries about using a glue block only for smaller elements that they didn't want to waste away the area on the bottom with screws directly into the wood, or the wood wasn't quite big enough to use a faceplate. And so how do we use a glue block for small items? So Jerry from Arizona had some questions about it and vibration issues, and Barry don't have an address location on him, but he was doing rings with a very small thin piece of exotic woods that he would fill with pewter, and needed very close tolerances, and the chuck was failing him. So stay tuned. We're going to do this little lidded box out of curly maple, really pretty little thing that we can do just using a glue block. Okay, the first thing I need to do is prepare a glue block. I just happen to have a 1 3/8 inch Forstner bit laying around, so that's what I'm using. It really doesn't matter. The size could be a little smaller, a little bigger, but we'll get a hole in here. Oh, I would think I'm inside where the screws are, so there's no worry about hitting the screws. I'll go in, 1.5 inches or 1/2 inch or 3/8 of an inch. Just depends on what you're going to be putting in here. If it's a long, skinny thing, you might want to drill a hole a little bit deeper. Here we're starting between centers, as I always do, and we're going to rough it out with the bowl gouge and clean it up. Then we'll put a tenon on the end. We'll measure the hole and get the tenon to fit fairly snugly. It doesn't have to be a perfect fit, but we'll get it pretty close because the glue is going to help us. Okay, we're going to use thick glue, and I'm going to put the glue on the piece so that I can hold it straight up. It's not going to run all over and drip down my arm. I'm going to put a bead around here, around the edge, and we'll put glue all around the tenon so that when that goes in here, the tenon's going to give me the strength and a little bit around here on the end of the tenon. Okay, so now I'm going to put my accelerator on the glue block, and I'm going to bring the tailstock up just to help get it running trued, and it won't take just a few seconds for this glue to start to set up. Okay, spray this very good. Get it good and saturated. Use the tailstock to line it up. All right. Spray around here a little bit where the glue is out. Now we have to let that cure about 2 minutes probably. Now we've got a really good grip on this, and if it was a smaller piece of wood, we could use a smaller tenon, but this same process would work to give you a much better hold of the wood, less vibration, less movement on this. If we're trying to drill accurately, be a stronger grip than a chuck would ever hold it, so that we don't have to deal with the vibration that a chuck would have. Okay, in a minute here we're going to use that same drill again, so we're going to make a tenon that same diameter, and we'll get that pretty close using the caliper, and we'll finish the outside shape. Notice when I separate the top and the bottom with the parting tool, it's on an angle so that they seat back together nicely. Okay, now I'm drilling the drill hole in the base piece that matches the tenon that I just made so that I can reverse this and hold it with my glue joint. Okay, so now I've drilled the center hole in it, and I've got my boring bar set up with the carbide cutter, which you can see there. If you can see it, is tilted on an angle, and that's slicing through the fibers very cleanly. And why would I use a big boring bar like this for just a little thing that I could do with a spindle gouge or a bowl gouge or even a scraper of some kind? Because I'm a control freak. I want to be in control of that wall thickness, and the laser is going to do that for me. When I get the mass of this wood out of here, I'm going to put the laser on. We'll go through that again. We'll just quickly hog out the inside of that, not worrying about the wall thickness yet. We'll put the laser on next. Okay, on my lid here for the lidded box, I'm going to have a shoulder that's going to sit on the outside of a tenon on the base. So I'm going to make this fairly thin here, about 3/16 or 1/8 of an inch of a wall thickness. But I have to remember that I'm going to clean this back up and finish the outside shape very slightly, but I'm going to turn this outside just to true it back up and make some transition marks between the top and the bottom of the lid. So I don't want to make this too thin right now, so that's why I want to be in control. I'm going to use a laser to make sure that I have the right wall thickness, enough wood so that I don't have to worry about truing up the outside, but thin enough to make it light and nice and uniform. I've gone over the laser use many times. I'll put a link down to my other video about the kitchen utensil caddy that I go through to use all that. And here we're going to set the laser again with no gaps so that we can watch the bottom and see the bottom depth and finish the bottom shape really nice and smooth. Separate it from the bottom of my box, which is holding it, and then we can get ready to reverse it. Going to cut into the waste wood in the middle of the bottom section. I'm going to use that top of the lid as a little knob. And then we're going to make the tenon for the top. Okay, so now I have this just friction on here. I don't want a really tight suction lid on this, but I wanted it tight enough to seat nicely now, and then I'll open it up later. Here I'm going to use a skew to separate the top knob from the body of it. Because it's got a steeper angle, I can get in there and make a nice clean detail. And with a skew, I've got a nice slicing cut, so the surface left behind is going to be really clean. I don't have to sand down in that little corner. Oh yeah, look how that's separated. Now I want to make this top pretty flat here, maybe just a little bit of a cone to it, so we'll get rid of that little waste wood later. Let's finish the outside shape. Now we'll clean up the outside with a shear scraping. This is speeded up, but in real life it's very slow and deliberate. Downhill to the grain, I got to work both directions to make sure the slicing angle is downhill. Then we'll clean up the bottom and get the area in the bottom where it's going to sit on the table. Now to separate the top from the bottom, I'm going to make a burn line, and I'm going to put one on the line and a couple above and below it. So I'm going to make a little notch with my skew so that the wire will sit in the notch, and then I'm going to use a piece of wire with the wooden handle on it so I don't burn my fingers, and I'm going to hold the wire against it in the notch until it just gets some smoke and starts to burn and leaves a nice sharp line. And just use all three of them. Alright, so I had Gary from Colorado ask last week about the three different cuts that we use with the carbide cutter and trying to get a close-up of it. So I wanted to show the first cut is with the bevel support right at the tip, using that to direct the cut across the bottom. So if I push it towards the headstock, nothing's going to happen. It won't cut that way, right? Okay, from this angle, you can look right underneath here and see that bevel support right up against the wood. See if we can see that. So the bevel's on. The second cut is a hog and off cut, and I can get deeper down in there and use a large percentage of the cutter. Half or 2/3 of the cutting action can be happening all at the same time. But when I do that, I don't push against the bevel at all. If I push against the bevel and do the hog and off cut, it can cause some vibration and be too aggressive. But kind of have to watch quick here on the hog and off cut. When I'm doing the hog and off cut, I'm going to very slightly pull it back off of the bevel and do just a little scooping action inside the vessel. So see if we can watch this. It's going to happen in a hurry. See, we can hog off much bigger shavings, and it's just effortless with that little scooping action of that tilted cutter. Works really efficiently. Okay. The hog and off cut is really easy and efficient and quick. You can make a ton of shavings in there in a hurry. Very easy. Now when we use this as a negative rake scraper, we're going to use this 9 o'clock side, and I've just got a straight walled vessel here, so the cutter's still pointing forward, but we can use that 9 o'clock side. In fact, let's just do it in slow motion here right for a second and watch what happens. We can see the little shaving coming off on the 9 o'clock side. Okay, let's do it in full speed. So to clean up tool marks, we can go back and forth on that internal surface and clean up tool marks really efficiently and sweet again, so we don't have to sand or don't have to sand much. We can clean up that inside surface. So now we set up the laser with a gap and measure, measure, measure. Clean up the tool marks, measure, 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 and make the laser disappear. So he just takes fingertip control. It's quick and easy. You're not working blind in there. You've got the laser to show you exactly where you are. Let's see if you can't get a good view in there with a close-up of the surface left behind, even with a flashlight here. Let's see if we can't see what's going on. There's just, other than the figure of the curliness, that's a very, very clean surface in there. And in fact, I'm even tempted to not even sand at all and just put some finish on it. Remember, I had a tight fit when I held the top on the bottom. Well, I'm loosening that up, sand that little tenon so that it's a nice loose fit for the lid. Now we're going to part it off. I'm going to leave some waste wood there so that when I reverse it, I can clean up the bottom. Okay. Now my waste wood is big enough that I can make a little recess in here and bring my tailstock up and hold it with a friction drive so that I can finish this waste wood and make this nice and clean and turned on the bottom and not just sand it off on a disc sander or something. Now, trial and error, we're just going to fit the lid on the waste wood, and we'll be able to bring the tailstock up to hold it. So it doesn't have to be a perfect fit, but get it kind of close so that it'll run true, and we'll clean up the bottom. So we're going to make light cuts and slowly, so I don't tax this too much. I'm just driving with the friction of the top against the waste wood. Go slowly on a steep angle so that it's nice and clean. You don't have to sand much. Okay, we're almost done now. We've got the box done, sanded inside and out. All we have to do is carve away the little top and the little bottom nub. Lots of different ways to do this: Dremel, Fordham, chisels, knife, sanding discs, sanding drums, whatever you've got around the shop to get that off and clean that little nub off. Small price to pay for the accessibility that we have from using the centers to hold it on the lathe and get everything done, finish the bottom and everything that we can reach. Turned out well. The curly figure is beautiful. The accent lines are nice and crisp. So I'm really pleased with it and hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.